Before we go on today's show, let's talk BYU hoops. Big announcement yesterday because the Big 12, as we all know, is America's premier college basketball conference. There's just no doubt about that. And the projections, funny enough, for this conference, the worst team, according to some, is Colorado. And they're somewhere in the, the 100s, like the low 100s. This basketball conference is just an absolutely loaded conference. And the Big 12 schedule shows that BYU under Kevin Young in year one is going to have to run an absolute gauntlet here if they want to really thrive and succeed at the level that I think they aspire to. Is it going to go perfectly? There's absolutely zero chance that it's going to go the way that they want it. BYU last year overexceeded all expectations. But the one thing I like about this schedule is it's full of opportunity for the BYU Cougars. The nice part is they're not messing around a lot with the schedule for BYU. Outside of a Wednesday game at Arizona State, BYU will play Tuesday, Saturday, will be their entire schedule through the Big 12 slate. That will allow them to get into a bit of a rhythm, obviously with the practice schedules and the like. So that's a positive in that respect. They do play more road back-to-backs than they have home back-to-backs. There's 3 that I saw in terms of road back-to-backs versus 2 in terms of back-to-back home games. It's not like the NBA where you play 2 straight nights. That doesn't happen in college hoops. But spending extra time on the road obviously takes guys away from school, takes them away from their beds. There's a lot that goes on with that. But with how big this conference is, it's inevitable you're going to have to go on the road at some point and have those back-to-backs. Obviously, BYU is not immune to that. But the bigger thing about this schedule is, as I mentioned, it's full of opportunity. It starts off New Year's Eve. If you're going to be there, I hope you are. Arizona State comes to town. It's going to be a fun one to kick off Big 12 play against ASU. And I think that could kick off what could be a really, really fun run. But the thing about it is you play December 31st at home against Arizona State. And then, oh, by the way, that Saturday you're in Houston facing off against the Houston Cougars. It doesn't get easy. It's not easy at all. Then you follow it up home against Texas Tech. Then you're at TCU, home with a back-to-back set against Oklahoma State, and then your arch rival Utah for the first time in the Big 12 conference together. You go to the Huntsman Center on Saturday, January 18th. That's going to be an absolute barn burner. It's going to be a sellout at the Huntsman Center. They actually will have to tear down the curtains for that game because the other ones, they may still have them up. But then you just go through this. You go at Colorado, home to Cincinnati, Baylor, at UCF, home to Arizona. There's an incredible who's who of college basketball that BYU faces in this. Kansas, the vaunted Jayhawks, they make a return trip to Provo. They're going to play in Provo February 18th on a Tuesday night in the Marriott Center. That is going to be an absolutely raucous environment. I fully expect every one of these home games for BYU in basketball, it is going to be an absolute madhouse. And I, for one, cannot wait to be out there watching this. I plan on being at literally every home game BYU plays in basketball this season. Does it require me giving up extra sleep because I do morning radio for the KSL Sports Zone? I have this podcast. Yeah, it does, but it's worth it to watch this level of basketball. The nice part is I don't think BYU's out of it by any means in terms of their ability to compete in this league. I talked about it earlier this week as BYU opened up their training camp. This on paper is one of, if not the most talented rosters that BYU's frankly ever had. Kevin Young is going to have a lot of weapons at his disposal. His biggest concern, I feel like, is going to be finding which guys work best with one another and, frankly, which guys are going to have to sit out of the rotation. Because when you have that many guys on a roster, you can't play a 15-man rotation. It just simply won't work in a 40-minute college basketball game. Rotations routinely end up being shortened to 8 or 9 guys at the very most by the time conference season gets here. And it's going to be interesting to see which players make that quote-unquote cut, and the other guys who are going to be relegated to a bench role and cheering on their teammates, maybe seeing spot duty at times if foul trouble or other things pop up. The bigger thing about this schedule is it's going to test everything that BYU's got in them. They are going to have to be able to go out and play at the McHale Center at Arizona on February 22nd, turn around, and the next Wednesday play in Tempe at Desert Financial Arena against Arizona State. That's not an easy set of games to play. They also have a road back-to-back out on the East Coast. I believe it's Cincinnati and West Virginia, February 8th to February 11th. Remember, last year, BYU had a similar circumstance. I think it was UCF and was it West Virginia? And they struggled mightily in that road trip. They're going to have their work cut out for them, but everybody in this league has that work cut out for them. There are very few teams that want to go and play in the Marriott Center. The teams that got picked to travel to Provo, obviously a lot of them will probably double up with Utah with that road trip. they're thinking, man, we got to go to elevation. We got to play. That's the thing about this. Everybody in this conference, speaking of basketball, is like, oh, we got to go there. We got to do that. We got to. That's the glory of this league. Everybody can beat anybody on any given night. It feels like all 16 teams in this conference have opportunities, depending on how the schedule may lay out. If they're hot one night, that they can notch a major upset, and that cannibalistic nature that could ensue with the Big 12, both will hurt, but also thrill fans. And I mean hurt just in the sense that, okay, my team can't catch a break. Well, guess what? Nobody else in this conference is going to catch a break. It's one of those things that you look at and say, man, whoever makes it out of this conference is the top dog this season. They have fended off literally all comers. And that team should be the top overall seed in the NCAA tournament, in my opinion, even if their record may pale in comparison to some other teams out there from the ACC, the Big East, Gonzaga out of the West Coast Conference. They may pale in terms of the overall record, but the fact that they have fought the wars, as I will use that analogy, in this conference, they will be very deserving of this. A lot of projections have BYU as low as 10th or 11th in the 16-team Big 12 in basketball. But if you've been paying attention to the bracketology out there from Joe Lunardi and the like, BYU is projected as a 7 seed. That shows you the depth, the breadth, and the overall talent that the Big 12 has. And by the way, if BYU is one of the best rosters ever and could finish in the lower half of the conference, that means this conference is going to just be insanely loaded and just, like I said, a dog-eat-dog world out there. And I, for one, cannot wait to see all the madness go down. It will be a ton of fun to track it, to talk about it, to break it all down. We're over a month away from the start of it. We haven't even reached October yet. It'll be early November when it finally gets going. But your first opportunity to see the Cougars, a glimpse at them, is next week on October 3rd. BYU has that Cougar Madness. The following week, October 9th, BYU's having their blue and white game. Why are they having the blue and white game almost a month ahead of when they actually take the court full time? I don't know. But hey, it's an opportunity to get a look at what Kevin Young's got cooked up, get a feel for some of these players, start to learn their names, understand what their game looks like. It's a fun time. I never will wish away college football season because it is my pride and joy. I think those of you who've been listening to me long enough know that I am a I'm turning into a college basketball junkie. I'm a college football junkie at heart. But college basketball, it is growing on me, and it's growing on me quick. And the help is that the Big 12 is just compelling any which way you want to cut it. And it's going to be fun to see how BYU competes in this league. Could the wheels come off at some point? Sure, that absolutely could happen. There will be teams that it will happen to this season. Fingers crossed it's not Kevin Young and it's not BYU. And in fact, I'm hoping that BYU once again goes out there, much like they did last year under Mark Pope, and shocks the world. They finished 5th last year. Can they improve on that? Be pretty impressive if they can, because if they do that, are you looking at a 2 seed, a 3 seed at the very worst? Be pretty impressive stuff to see what they can do with the BYU basketball program.